Okay, in this video we're going to go through Paste from Excel for your Vendor Center. Hopefully you've already watched the video on Customer Center because it's very good information. And again, any information that you learn in QuickBooks, right? You learn this little tidbit with the Customer Center, maybe you can apply it in the Vendor Center and vice versa. So it's always good to go in and get a full look, right, at all our different videos because we do cover different little tidbits and they can be used across other Paste from Excels as an example. Okay, so we're going to go into Vendor Center here. All right. And we come up to Excel here and we say Paste from Excel. So this is how we get into it. When we're looking at Paste from Excel, again, we're going to start off with customized columns because I want to make sure that we understand fully all the columns that are possible to add. So I'm just going to go ahead and add all of them. Okay. We have the ability to obviously look at vendors, which we're looking at, and here's some other list items. You can say active vendors, all vendors, meaning including inactive. You can look at only inactive vendors, any unsaved vendors, so if we pasted a whole bunch of vendor information in here, vendors with errors, or we can have some custom filtering in there. Okay. We also have the Find button over here. Again, the Find button is really helpful. It searches through most of the information on the vendor card, right? But not all. So again, vendor type still no search, just like customer type in the other video. All right, so once we get in all of these columns, you want to be really aware because it's very easy to click on them and it will sort by if you didn't mean to do that, right? There's no real undo. You have to close out of it and reload it. Okay, all right, so in here, just going across the top, again, reasons why we would use Paste from Excel, we would want to, if we had a whole bunch of vendors we were adding, let's say we, I don't know, started doing business with several new companies, or maybe we opened up a division instead of doing manufacturing in-house, now we're going to outsource all of our manufacturing, and so we have a whole bunch of new vendors that we need to add in all at once that we're going to be buying product from. So, and you want to paste a whole bunch of vendors in there, right? So just looking at the fields that are available, so we can post in vendor name, obviously that's the only required field in here. Company name, first, last, right? Main, phone number, fax, alternate phone number, email, address, going into the address area. Again, you definitely, before you start pasting data in here, at least set up one vendor as a test vendor because it gives you information that's really important, right? So as an example here, address 1, right? You think, oh, address line 1 is 555 East Main Street. No. In QuickBooks, address line 1 is the name of the customer that you're going to be addressing checks to or that you're going to be sending letters to, right? So address line 1, when you look at the box, if you're addressing an envelope, you put the name, right, of the company that you're addressing it to first. Same here. City, or, you know, address, okay. City, state, zip is all in one field, so make sure that you're aware of that. And again, we can continue on here. So they do allow you to put in the vendor opening balance here. I'm sorry, the vendor balance or the opening balance as of here. Don't do it, okay, because it's going to create a transaction that's going to create a mess. There are other ways to get open balances in the system. We can put the print on check as, account number, again, vendor type, terms, credit limit, tax ID number if we're filling those in. If they're eligible for a 1099, this is a check field. So again, if we just needed to, you know, instead of editing several vendors to make them eligible, you can come in here, you check off that first column, go down, check, down, check, down, check, down, check, right? And I'm doing the check by hitting the space bar. You can make several vendors inactive in here, so it's a quick way to make vendors inactive. Again, so let's say if, let me use vendor type as an example. If we were coming in here and we said, okay, all tax agency vendors, there's only 3, so it's not that difficult, but let's pretend there were a lot. All tax agency vendors are going to become inactive. So I'm going to select the first one. I'm going to right click on that and I'm going to copy it down. Now notice it copies all the way down, right? It includes the utilities. And since there's only one utilities, I'll just uncheck that, but then it mass selected for me all the tax agency ones, right? So use those little features in there. And then of course we have birthday, which is a custom field that I have set up at the vendor level, and class. So in enterprise, you can set up a class, a default class associated with the vendor, right? It's just a default. You can always edit on the transaction, but it's a great feature to use, right? Because classes, they give you warnings, but people don't always put them in. If you have a default preset up, it's very helpful. So this is one of the few areas in QuickBooks that you can go in and get that class field entered in when you're entering in your vendor list, right? So when you're doing the cleanup there. Okay. All right. So those are all the fields that are available. I showed you how you can copy down. You want to be really careful, as I mentioned, right? You don't want to just come in here and say, oh, I'm going to copy this down, because it's going to copy down all rows, or all rows below it. Okay. You can also say clear column. So if we have a whole bunch of junk in there, right, I can say clear column. It takes out anything, every phone number for me, as an example. Of course, I don't want to do that, so I'm going to not save. When I go to close, it asks me if I want to save. I'm going to say no. All right, so maybe another thing that we might want to do, or something I've done with customers before. So they wanted to, I had customers that have paid bills outside of QuickBooks or handwritten checks in QuickBooks, instead of paying them through QuickBooks. So one of the things that we wanted to do was go through and we wanted to update the account numbers because they'd never put them in QuickBooks. So we go in and I'm going to just keep active vendors only, right? Because if you remember, if I switch to all vendors, it'll export inactive vendors as well, and I don't care about those right now. So I'm going to export my vendor list to Excel. Okay. And then it's going to pull up here everything in Excel. So why would I want to do it in Excel? First of all, Excel has some functions, right, that we can use, some formulas we can use that QuickBooks doesn't have. So if we wanted to do things, check out our customer video for a quick tip on using some Excel functions there, or an Excel function that's really helpful. But one of the things that I've done before is, you can see when I export it here, not all fields that are available on Paste from Excel are actually here on this sheet. Okay, so one of the fields that we wanted to fill in that we were talking about is I want to fill in the account number field, right? I'm now going to cut checks out of QuickBooks, and I want to get the account number field in here so that when I print my checks, it prints out on the checks. So I take this Excel document and I get rid of the columns that, don't matter. Maybe I'll leave the bill to in there so that we can verify that. Sorry about that. So I get rid of some of these columns in here. And then I'm going to insert an additional column and call it account number. Okay. So in the account number field, now I can give this over to maybe somebody who doesn't have access to QuickBooks. Maybe we have a office clerk who doesn't access QuickBooks at all, or maybe we have an intern in the office. They can go in, I say, all right, I need you to run through, here's our AP file, run through the AP file, the latest bill, pull our account number off. So they come in and they fill it in for us. Right, Okay, so they fill in the account numbers for us. Then they give us this sheet back. And you want to, again, make sure that they don't resort the sheet or put it in a different order or anything like that, because this order is the order that it's going to be in Paste from Excel. So then I can copy this. I can come into QuickBooks, say Paste from Excel. Okay. Now I'm starting out with vendor name, and that account number field's way over there on the right side. So I'm going to customize my columns. I'm going to get rid of some of these fields. Makes it a little bit easier. And then I'm actually going to take this field and move it up, right? The account number field, because this is what I'm trying to work with here. I'm going to move it up to right under the vendor name. So now it sticks that account number field right here. I can come in, right click and paste. It pastes in for me. I save my changes. Okay. And now when I cut my checks, I can include that account number on the check. So it's a way to mass, get data cleaned up in there. Okay. All right. Now you can go in, clean up vendors, add a whole bunch of new vendors in your QuickBooks file. Make sure, again, there's no undo button, so as soon as you hit save, it's in there. If there's any cleanup or we messed up, we want, there's no undo. Oh, one thing I did want to mention as well. So I have had customers try to use Paste from Excel in this way. It does not do the merging of vendors for us. So let's say we had several vendors where we just misspelled it slightly. So if I try and copy this name down, notice it turns it to red, right? And then it gives me a little error message. This name is already used on the vendor list. You need to do something with it because you can't merge it. You can't merge from this screen. If I tried to save it, it would say I have 2 errors. These are the errors, right? And again, it would give me that same note. So I would have to fix that before I go in and allow it to save. Or I'd just have to say close. So again, make sure that you, or make sure that if you're doing the merging, you still have to do that manually on the customer list. This is not a quick way to do it. All right. So go try Paste from Excel.